6:03, and I'll now call to order the February 22nd, 2016 meeting of the East Hampton Conservation Commission. The meeting is being recorded. Are there any public concerns, non-agenda items? Being none, we'll move on to our first public meeting. Request for determination of applicability for the construction of an addition and screened-in porch at 107 Briggs Street, filed by Patrick and Genevieve Ruff.
Hi.
Hi, come on up.
Hello. So,
Could you introduce yourself?
1 second.
yeah, absolutely. Like, I don't know what I need to do.
It's okay.
Well,
We'll basically reiterate what you
said,
want to do.
and then go from there. Okay.
Both of yours is in color. I printed mine in black and white.
Which one, the picture or this one? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that's
doesn't
much
translate to
no,
black and white.
not at all. I only made one, but
We can share.
yeah.
And do you sign in?
I did.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Ready.
I'm from 107 Briggs Street. Thank you all for meeting with me today. So I'm here because, as I put in the application, our current home, we are looking to add to the kitchen in the back of the home. I have a couple of photos, and this is the plans that we're working off of that were designed by Ziggy. I'll call him Ziggy. I don't know if I can pronounce the last part, but Ziggy. It essentially comes down to, off the back side of the house, we'll be adding a 12 by 24 room, which, sorry you guys are down there, but essentially it comes off the back of the house here and replaces this deck. We'll have to build here, and then the gazebo will be taken out, and the screened-in porch will be replacing the gazebo. So my question for you is, what do I need to do? I know that we have, when we originally built the house, we had to go through the Conservation Commission to get everything squared away. And this is the piece that we have. I actually have the full map somewhere here, but here's kind of a smaller version of it.
So is this oriented roughly the same, or is it
I gotta
flipped?
look because I did this backwards last time. I was showing you. So if it
Right.
goes like this,
Okay.
so let me turn it that way. So this,
Is that the garage?
yeah,
Okay, so that's the garage. Was this the way it was built?
yes.
Okay.
And look at, yeah. So this is the back. All right, now here we are. So this is the way it was built. That's the garage there. That's the house there.
Okay, so looks like.
So that's the 100-foot buffer zone there. That's 200, and that's 50.
Okay, so it looks like you've got some in the 100-foot buffer zone
Mhm.
and all within the 200-foot riverfront area.
Mhm.
But that said, it's all residential stuff to begin with at this point. So,
Am I understanding right? It would be right here. Is that-
Correct. Yeah, you can just, that's essentially what we're going to do. And that's probably not quite scale, but I'd say somewhere
It
somewhere
look-
like that.
it looks like your yard's pretty level.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the back is.
So it doesn't even seem like it would be pretty minimal ground disturbance.
That's
And-
what I
Same
hope.
footprint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't see anything migrating in a way that would adversely affect a resource area. And the only resource area up here is riverfront, and it's residential yard,
Mhm.
so the
What's
question.
the waterfront area? What's the river? I mean,
Brickyard Brook.
Brook.
Yeah.
So it's over here in this.
oh, it's labeled and everything.
It was covered with paper.
Yes.
And I'm looking here.
Yes, she's looking.
So, I'm not concerned. I don't think this warrants a notice of intent for an order of conditions. If anyone would like to make a motion that the work described in the request is within an area subject to protection but will not remove, fill, dredge, or alter that area, therefore does not require the filing of a notice of intent. Under a -2, we could do that. Do you have questions?
Okay, Rich.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, it makes sense to me, I think.
Yep.
It's not just buffer zone.
Yeah.
It's an area subject to protection, but
Do we do a 2 and a 3? One for buffer zone, one for riverfront area? Or does it not matter? If we're
We
doing a
could.
2. If we're doing a 2, do we not care about 3?
it's technically both.
Okay. Then,
Do you want that back?
Yes.
yeah.
What does that mean in English?
It's just the
Thanks.
type of.
Okay.
It's just-
Bad.
So,
Just getting our language right.
Okay.
I'll move to issue a negative determination. Number 2, the work described in the request is within an area subject to protection, but will not remove, fill, dredge, or alter that area. Therefore, the work does not require the filing of notice of intent. And the work described in the request is within the buffer zone as defined in the regulations, but will not alter an area subject to protection under the Act. Therefore, said work does not require filing of notice of intent.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So,
Can I just say determination 2 and 3?
yes,
Yep,
negative
that's good.
determination.
Yeah, negative determination.
So let me,
So I'm in the process of choosing a builder. We're just about there. So my next step, I guess, is get a permit, and that means we're good, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
and I checked off the boxes.
Both of them?
Yep. And when you pull a permit, because everything is now through an electronic system, it'll
Okay.
send a message to Melissa and she'll just email the inspector saying it's all good.
Okay,
Yep.
cool, perfect. All right.
So you just need to, we'll have you,
Yep.
you hold on, we'll make a copy, give you
Sure.
your copy, the original, we'll keep a copy in our file, and
Good, thank you.
you're welcome, thank you.
You don't need
Sorry
the
about the
pictures,
weather.
do you? I don't know.
We have your copy here.
Perfect. No, the weather's still all right.
Of the last meeting.
The hardest, oh yeah, that is what it is.
You're handling this today.
For a second there, I thought you were saying you controlled the weather, Melissa.
You're gonna make it so we can't build yet, come on. We're gonna get snow.
What are you doing?
Oh.
Two copies, right? No, it's not. One for DEP, one for you.
You can scan. If you just scan it and then just one for us, and if you email the scan to me, I can forward it to DEP because they don't want paper.
They don't?
No, well, not of this stuff. No.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, they just throw it away. This, should you decide you want to appeal our decision.
Okay.
Terrible. It is part of the.
Do I get to keep this?
You can
Do I
keep
have
that.
to keep it?
You can recycle it. You can draw on the
Yeah,
back.
alright,
You can
I'll
make
do
a
that.
paper airplane.
I'll just note that you gave it
There you
to me.
go. You can get rid of it.
Excellent. All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank
And
you.
can grab that from Jess and
Yeah.
Maria. Perfect.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
See you guys later.
Okay. So let's act together. Do we have hard copy files? Let me- oh, it's a secret.
Try
Let's run it. This is. So make sure I'm getting all the. This is. All right, I'm
There's a
gonna.
typo in
Yep.
the name, but I don't think it's a big deal.
Ooh.
You got that one.
I changed your name.
Yeah, right.
So sorry. I was rushing.
All right, don't worry.
Thank you. Oh,
Should have had someone.
all right. This is Stormwater Originals. I'm sharing them down yonder. And you and I can share. That's all right with you. That way, both ends of the table
Sounds good.
have some stuff. So, I guess. before we get started, there's a question raised regarding the letters.
Wasn't it?
So who's the abutter to the north? Okay. Well then, that is
Yeah.
good. So,
Yeah, it's A
Oh,
to Z
it's
storage.
It's in Northampton?
It's in Northampton,
Yeah.
A to Z
All right.
storage.
perfect. I will now open the public hearing for a notice of intent filed for the construction of commercial property off O'Neill Street, map 114, lot 13. Project includes proposed wetland crossing / fill, 2 buildings and paved parking area, wetland replication and stormwater management. The notice of intent was filed by Levin Properties, Inc. of West Hampton, Massachusetts. And Ashley, if you could note that it has been assigned DEP file number 151-287.
How'd you get that?
I emailed it.
Yeah.
Today?
No,
No.
Friday.
I never got it. He didn't email it to me.
I'll forward it to you.
Oh,
Really? He didn't? Jeez, I sent him about the check and I never got it Friday.
so-
Okay.
Can I confirm 151-287?
Sorry. Yeah.
Correct.
And it's DEP file.
All right,
Yes.
I'll have to follow through on that.
No,
Later.
You could-
I'll forward it to you right now.
Okay, good. Well, that's
You
good.
know, he sent an email saying wrong mark. I think he sent it to himself.
Ah, that's what it was, and he never forwarded it to me
We all have those days.
for the afternoon. Okay, so for the record, I'm Mark Reed from Heritage Surveys, representing Dave Loven and Loven Properties on this filing. 2 things I want to submit to the board is, one is the certified mailings and a check in the amount of $1,050 that will go to you. Excuse me. Dave, Mark Stenson at DEP mentioned that when we did our original filing, we did not include the 2 buildings within the filings, so that's for each building as well as the crossing. So
Thank you.
that's why he issued the file number then,
Let's see. You said
because he
you
was holding
sent
back.
yeah. You sent proof that the supplemental fees had been
Right,
filed. So,
right. So he sent it off, and I'm sure they received it in Boston today.
Great.
So, I would like to go through the project. Sheet number 1 is an existing conditions plan. So, O'Neill Street is located on the westerly side of the property. The industrial parkway is here. Northampton Street would be up at the top of the page. This is a parcel of land that A to Z Storage and Properties owns that Dave Loven would like to purchase from them and build a facility for his excavating business, currently located in West Hampton, and move to East Hampton. He does quite a bit of work in East Hampton, so it'll be more central for him than coming all the way down from West Hampton. So the wetlands are delineated by Chuck Dowshy. They were delineated some years ago when David and his wife were thinking about building a kennel on this piece of property. And then subsequent to that, we had Chuck Dowshy go back out and reconfirm the wetland boundaries for the site itself. And before winter set in, and we thought we were going to get lots of snow, we had a site visit, and that was on, I guess,
December
31st.
No. It was the kids' Christmas party.
Yeah.
It was-
19th.
It might have been.
It was in the teens.
it was, yeah, the
I'm sure
19th.
was too.
You skipped your company Christmas
No.
party.
No. I ditched my family and left it. Went.
Yeah, December 19th. So, and then subsequent to that, we had no snow, so we could have done it anytime.
Do we care about the date of the delineation and the revisit?
The date of the delineation, Chuck was out there in, I have it on,
It says July 2015.
Yes.
It does say July 2015.
yeah, July 2015.
So it was refreshed?
Yep, it was
Okay.
all redone. He checked all the flags, reflagged the wetlands. We went out and surveyed them again. What we did was we went and we reflagged all the wetlands by survey from what he originally done for David, and then Chuck came out and checked them. He made some modifications to some. We relocated them. So these are updated as of July 2015.
So, can I ask you, 3 deeds listed here? Are there 3 separate parcels on which work will occur?
The deed for this, it's a little bit confusing because there was a consolidation of corporations when David
Okay.
did this. So that you'll notice that it was formerly Autumn Properties LLC, and then there was a confirmatory deed changing the name of the corporation to A to Z Storage and Properties Inc., and then their underlying deed for the property. So it's a little bit confusing deed-wise because of the change in the corporation and change of the status of the land.
Okay.
So currently, it's all under A to Z Storage and Properties LLC, under this book 6078, page 99.
Okay.
And the parcel itself ran all the way around this way, and we're proposing to subdivide it
I see.
to be parcel A, which will just contain 5.5 acres, which will be right here. And the A to Z will storage and properties will continue to own the rest of it.
And you own American Storage as well?
Yes, I'm one of the owners, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
David Boyle,
Yeah.
so one of the owners. So, based on the site visit we had out there, this is a large wooded hemlock forest. There's very little vegetation, ground cover, vegetation-wise, out there because it's so thick. O'Neill Street, the topography drops down to the site, and the grade transition throughout the whole site is only probably 2 or 3 feet difference over this entire 5.5 acre parcel. The old canal runs right through here. So you can see it by the contours. And it continues, of course, through the industrial park and up into Northampton. We went out and did soil testing, which is part of the stormwater application for the site, for the buildable area, so that we could determine where the best use of the stormwater management system would go, and have done a layout, which is sheet 2.
I'm sorry.
Of what's being proposed. So what is being proposed is that a driveway, 18-foot wide driveway, would come in. There'll be a small parking field here for his employees and or customers that come into the site. 2 buildings, one a 60 by 100 foot building, which will have his office and garage and storage in it, and then a proposed 60 by 100 foot storage building for all his equipment to get it on the cover, so it's not sitting outside. The gray is the new paved area, and in order to maintain the maximum of 5,000 square foot of disturbance, we are installing concrete retaining walls on either side, and then using stone retaining walls up in this area here to minimize the amount of disturbance between the wetlands. So we are filling this portion of wetlands, and there's a note on the plan that we are filling 4,950 square feet. And we have 2 areas of replication, one here, with a total of 5,960 square feet of new wetlands being replaced as part of the project. We are showing a 36-inch PVC culvert between the 2 wetlands so that water can flow between the 2 wet areas, and a stormwater basin, infiltration basin, being out in the rear of the property over here with the overflow coming out to a portion of the canal. We've designed the stormwater system large enough to accommodate the 10, 2, and almost all of the 100-year storm event. I think we have 0.7 CFS coming out for the 100-year storm event. So just a minor increase for the whole site. We are paving the site because of the nature of his business. There are catch basins with hoods that are piped down to a storm scepter unit before that storm scepter discharges to the forebay and infiltration system located in the rear of the site. We have to pump the sewage from the bathrooms up to O'Neill Street, because O'Neill Street is quite a bit higher in elevation. But that'll be, kind of shows up a little bit better on the 3rd sheet. So we have a 1,500 gallon pump chamber here, which will pump up and make a connection to the existing sewer system within O'Neill Street. We have underground electric being served to the building, as well as water coming in and servicing the building. The storage unit or storage building won't have any utilities other than electricity. There's no sanitary or water serve in the storage building for itself. In order to provide churning for trucks within the site, we are proposing to fill this little bit of wetland finger that sticks up here. And really, the only, I didn't figure this actual square footage, but really it's only this smaller area here. So we kind of drew a line across and called it 2690, but I mean, if the commission was concerned about the amount of fill wetlands, we could not fill this little bit right here, and I'd have to figure out what that square foot would be for it. It's kind of an odd finger of wetlands that comes up there because the topography is so flat.
But you had included that in the earlier total.
Correct. We did. Yes. Yes, we did. This area and this area. Yes, they're both in there for it. The 4th sheet is all the construction-related details. Details of the catch basins with the sumps and hoods, stormwater, manhole, the control structure within the basin itself, wetland replication area notes, general construction notes, and vegetative cover notes, and the detention basin. Just wanted to point out that on this one, kind of gives you an idea of what it would look like in a cross-sectional view at the worst area, which is the wetlands on either side of it. The narrowest point, which is where the pipe is up here, this hatched area right in here. So we've squished down that footprint of that crossing. So as I mentioned, the blacktop would be 18 feet in width. Because of the trucks, we feel that 18 is adequate. We don't want the trucks to go off into the gravel edge and compromise the walls, these block walls. There is a small 3-foot grass shoulder on either side of it for storm water to go off and infiltrate into the grass. And then the retaining walls are 2 foot in width. They're the precast blocks that you see people using, or large boulders that he has available to him to be used there. And then the silt fence and silt sock, and then we're maintaining a minimum of a foot to the wetland on either side, so we're very close in order to get this in here. It's a tight area. Very tight.
Question for our planner. Will 18 feet, has this already gone to planning board?
No.
No,
Okay.
the strategy was that, to have it go through this process first, just to see if there would be any modifications to the design. I didn't want it to, I'd rather get it cleaned out in one
Sure.
location.
The only, I'll say, tricky part about that, or I'm looking for your opinion as to whether or not 18 feet will be, the roadway width, the access width will be acceptable to the planning board?
I mean, I can't speak for the board, but,
Right.
I would suspect that it would probably be fine.
Okay.
Did you talk to Jim Gracia at all about this project before he retired?
Yes, we had conversations before he left. Another reason we did 18 foot wide is if a car is passing, you got 2 9-foot lanes, so you can go either way. If a large dump truck or trailer truck's coming in here, you won't be able to go by. So you have to wait for him to come in and out. But we wanted to make sure that, at least 2 cars or pickup trucks could go in and out at the same time through here. So that's why we did 18. Normal width of the lane is 9 foot.
There is a driveway section in the zoning. I don't know what the number is off the top of my head. I can go grab the zoning book and look at it. But there is a driveway dimensional standard in there.
The reason I'm asking is that the phrasing of the limited project provision for construction and maintenance of a new roadway or driveway is of minimum legal and practical width acceptable to the planning board.
Right.
So it's
Let me go grab the zoning.
yeah, that would be
Right.
helpful. That would at least,
Close that, right.
Tricky site you got here.
Yes. Yes, it is. Yeah, it's a tight site. We're maintaining 40 foot between the wetland boundary and the rear of the building on the back of both buildings, and then providing a water quality swale along the backside because the roof from both these buildings will go out the back, sheet flow out the back. They don't have a pitch, or they're not peaked. They're all one slope to the rear, so the storm water will go through the water quality swale before it enters into the basin. So we've maintained that 40 foot.
and that's northerly?
Yes.
And there are no roof drains, it's just sheet flow?
Correct. All other areas, we're maintaining a 10-foot buffer off of the wetlands, with the exception of this pinch point right here where we're crossing and filling the wetlands. So we're maintaining the 10-foot minimum distance separation from there to the limits of work and the erosion control barriers.
I have an answer.
Yes.
So driveways under the parking regulations say that they cannot be more than 24 feet in width for business, commercial, institutional, or industrial use.
So it's a
So-
maximum
At the
of-
lot line, yep, built for access to a garage or off-street parking or loading spaces.
Okay.
So we're well under that.
So you're well under the.
So we have DEP file number and comments. Comment number 1, in order to comply with the stormwater standards, additional LID and ESSD techniques should be considered by the applicant, including treating and infiltrating water at the source versus sending to a large basin as is proposed. Comment number 2, what type of stormwater basin is being proposed? One cannot combine an infiltration basin with a detention basin. All BMPs must be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained for Volume 2, Chapter 2 of the Stormwater Handbook. Comment 3, for any work proposed in BVW, whether as a limited project or not, an alternatives analysis should be submitted to the Conservation Commission per 310 CMR 1055-4B7. The issuing authority shall consider the magnitude of the alteration and the significance of the project site to the interest identified in the Act, to the extent to which adverse impact can be avoided, the extent to which adverse impacts are minimized, and the extent to which mitigation measures, including replication or restoration, are provided to contribute to the protection of the interest identified in the Act. Please note that the BVW fill for the parking area is not eligible to be reviewed as a limited project. So,
Okay, so I guess 2 comments, and we will formally submit comments on this, is that this is considered an infiltration basin. We've designed it for that. I did notice that on sheet 4, we call it a detention basin, but in the stormwater report, we've designed it for infiltration. We've got a minimum of 2-foot separation between the bottom of the basin. We've got 2.8 feet separation between the bottom of the basin and the seasonal high groundwater, and 2 foot minimum for an infiltration basin for that. So we'll make that correction or clarification for that. So we're considering this an infiltration basin. And I did notice that it was called detention basin on the last sheet for that. The concern that I have is because of the use of this business, I think that we wanted to make sure that all the stormwater from the impervious areas were collected into catch basins with hoods and oil water separators in it, and then filtered through the storm scepter before it ever gets to the infiltration basin. If a truck's coming in there and it happens to be leaking oil or whatever, we can contain it in the storm scepter or one of the 2 catch basins on site. I just have concerns about just sheet flowing stormwater into grass areas because there's no pre-treatment of that whatsoever. We do have water quality swale for all the roof before it ever gets into that area. So that, I wasn't concerned about that, but the rest of it, because of the nature of the project and the use of the land, I was just concerned that we didn't want to just sheet flow it off into the grass areas. So that's why we designed it the way we did. I think it's the best for the environment and the existing wetlands that surround it for that.
Does this qualify as a land use with higher potential pollutant loads?
No, because we're not in the aquifer recharge area for it. I don't believe that.
This is like the tiny single-digit % of East Hampton that's not in a zone 2.
Right. Right.
But
Through there.
does that? I mean, it's the land use type, not the.
Yeah, that's a separate.
Not the zone 2.
Separate question.
Yeah, the land use with higher potential pollutant load could include fleet storage. I don't have my stormwater.
Yeah, I have to check. Yeah.
Okay.
Where my mind is going on this is that it's been a long time since I've done stormwater stuff intensively, and this is such a tight, tricky site with, not a lot of grade that we're dealing with. My mind has kind of been going that I'd like a second set of eyes on this, someone that can really knows the regulations better than I do and can pay some attention to it, do like a peer review on it. Because I could probably sit down and spend like a bunch of time trying to figure it out again, but think that would give me a greater sense of comfort. Also, in the fact that there's a lot of people in town that are focused on this area, you know, and the impacts of development on where they live.
The groundwater table.
Yeah, on the groundwater table.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's easy for me to say it's probably not going to be a problem, you know, but it'd be nice to have the opinion of somebody else who can really focus on it.
Mhm.
I agree.
Right. In order to design this, we're putting in about 4 feet of fill throughout this whole area, as you can see by topography, because it's so flat,
Mhm.
in order to facilitate that. Keeping it all up and filling the site with the building.
On that peer review, if the city had a city engineer, would that be peer review, or where are you headed for doing that?
So theoretically, it's not just any PE. The Stormwater Handbook, Mark can attest, is pretty dense and very specific requirements. So it would typically be someone who is not just a mass PE, but someone well versed in the stormwater management standards.
Where I was headed is, could Jim Gracie be hired as a consultant?
I think ethically he can't under the state
Okay.
ethics law. He's not allowed to work
Too
for
soon.
the city for several years or do any work with the city for several years.
There are people in the area
Okay.
who do those things. And so I think we've asked some preliminary questions of in general, under peer review requirements, what procedures we need to follow.
Mhm.
Because it's not something we've done recently, at least.
What, the 53G you're
Yeah.
talking about? Yes.
So, and that's something I would feel more comfortable with, because if the PE on the board isn't comfortable doing it,
Mhm.
and the city doesn't have an engineer familiar with stormwater management standards, we've had, as Dan mentioned, there's heightened sensitivity to water in this part of the city,
Mhm.
and we certainly wouldn't want the applicant to be, no offense to Mr.
Right.
Weiss, but we certainly wouldn't want anyone to be left with a system that didn't meet the standards.
Oh, no, I understand, I was just asking more procedurally.
So we would put together a brief scope,
So
and
this is-
Jessica would reach out.
This is presuming that, I can't imagine that it would cost more than $10,000, but.
No.
No.
Okay, so the procedure from the city would be that I would need the names of 3
Mhm.
consulting firms or folks that you know of that do this type of work, or I could do some research as well. We do 3, you give me the scope of work of what you're looking for, I get
Mhm.
3 price quotes, and then ask for a scope of work from them, and then make a determination from there.
Okay.
Yep.
But all of those things take time, so.
Right.
Yep.
And it has to be price-based, it can't be qualifications-based, as far as you
I'd
know.
have to check with procurement on that. I don't remember what we did for Parsons Village, because we did something similar.
Okay.
I mean, it certainly, quals is a big component of it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure.
And we would not ask Ty and Bond, just
No.
for everybody. who-
No.
It would make the work a lot easier.
Because then you'd have a quorum issue.
Yeah.
I think we use VHB, John Furman from VHB for Parsons.
Greg Newman out of Worthington came highly recommended by Janice
DEP.
Stone, Janice Stone's the conservation agent in Hadley and South Hadley.
Okay, so we have some names, so it's just a matter of.
Or
making-
Doucette Associates.
That was another one.
Yeah.
Yep.
They
They
Thank
use
you.
both of those,
Because they did.
and Greg Newman, so, I mean, they
You've
were,
used both?
yeah, they were both great.
Okay.
Yeah, Doucette did right across the street over here, I think.
Correct.
Yeah,
So he's
Complete
familiar.
Automotive or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Like
Thank
100
you.
years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's familiar with the area, so.
Yeah.
Right.
So, okay, so we'll move forward on that as well. So, any BVW impact, my understanding, requires a wildlife habitat evaluation as part of it.
Oh, yeah?
Is that, yeah,
Any? Oh, yeah?
yeah.
Hmm.
Let me, 1055,
Okay. Surprised Mark didn't point that out.
I am too.
I thought it was 5,000 square feet.
or above, right?
Yeah, because I'm
Right.
wetlands all the time.
But basically, that means that almost nothing requires a,
Habitat evaluation,
Yeah,
right? Unless
for
you go over
BBW.
5,000. I thought that was the case.
it's 5,000 for a lot of things.
It's 500 feet of bank, right? Or
No.
for wildlife habitat. maybe?
Oh, wildlife habitat evaluation. Hold on.
So are you asking about habitat?
Whether a wildlife habitat evaluation
Maybe
is
it's
required
in
by
this-
the
the
regulations.
replacement book. So I'll follow up on that.
Okay.
So, because I wasn't, during our site visit, I wasn't taking detailed notes, but what type of wetland is being impacted?
It is just like all of this area, it is BVW associated with the old canal.
But what's the vegetation?
And the vegetation through this area, right in here, is, there's very little ground cover because of the denseness of it. There is some young growth of maples and other vegetation through this area. The thickest portion of it is up near the road here when we came through. And then it really thins out once you cross over this area. So there's really not a lot of ground vegetation that's there. There was a large blowdown. I don't know if you remember that. We had to kind of cross over that area. So that there's a lot of vegetation up in this area. Very thick vegetation, but through this area here, there's very little. I can take another look at it, and now that, well, of course, nothing's growing, nothing's green, but
the persistent
But, yes.
vegetation is.
and I can look at that, Melissa.
Okay, that would be helpful. I noticed, oops, that's not the one. I noticed you proposed New England wet mix
Yes.
in the replication area. Just making sure that that's consistent with what's being lost and compatible with the area.
What do we want to tack on if we're doing a peer review anyways?
Yeah, I mean, if they're, I'll have them review the NOI and stormwater. Yes. Okay. So, we've got some homework.
Yep.
You're gonna prepare responses.
Right, to
Um,
Mark Stanton's,
yeah.
Stanton's comments.
Do you-
It is a limited project just for the crossing. He made a comment which was kind of confusing to me, that this couldn't be considered a limited project.
Right,
So we're just proposing to fill it.
and replicate.
And replicate.
Right,
So, and when I first read that, because he sent me the first draft without the formal
okay.
DP file number, was like we couldn't propose this.
I think maybe that's more for the commission's edification.
Okay.
Than yours, perhaps, and
Okay.
perhaps what he's looking for is a distinction in how they're addressed in the written record.
Okay.
But that, perhaps you could talk about that with him.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And I would be fine with, if you want to, I mean, the timing of in which you address these comments,
Mm-hmm.
if you wanted to wait until it was combined with a peer review,
Correct.
I would be fine with that, because there may be some
Mm-hmm.
crossover
Makes sense.
redundancy.
Sure.
So you don't have to answer the same question twice if that's the case.
Sure. That makes sense.
What were you going to say? You want to talk over anyone?
Nothing.
Okay. So, with that, are there any other questions right now? I'm tapped.
Mark, I just had a question. Is this to scale where this crossing is, this cross section?
No, it's not. Well,
Kind of-
it's
I mean, how high are those walls, like 6 or 7 feet?
Correct.
It looks like,
Correct, yeah, those walls are 6 to 7 feet tall.
in whatever block you're gonna place, is that gonna be tied back in somehow, so?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, with
And there'll
tie
be-
backs.
There'll be drainage
Correct. So
at the toe of the
So
wall.
the toe of the wall, it's all stone.
Okay, okay.
They're backed with stone. The nice things about those blocks, they're not solid.
Mhm.
You can weep through.
Mhm.
And we're in all in fill, so that the topography coming into the site, the pavement area is an inverted crown, so we're going to the middle, so it's all coming to the catch basin here. So you're not getting a lot of infiltration from the surface into just this crossing area between these walls.
You need to get something down below stable enough to build that wall on.
Correct. Yeah, there'll be stone and
Um,
it can be set on a bed of stone.
and these are stamped plans, and I assume that
Yes.
applies to the design of the wall as well?
Correct.
Okay. What's the maximum height for a wall that doesn't have to have a PE
I
stamp?
think it's under 30 inches.
Okay, so
But
you're
they're all
nowhere
over.
near that.
No, we're all over. yeah.
Okay.
Right. I believe it's under 30 inches.
Okay. So, with that, would anyone care to make a motion
Well,
to?
do you want to talk about the logistics of doing a review just a little bit?
Okay.
So they've paid a pretty substantial fee for this project already.
Mhm.
Can we use that to,
You have your wetlands account, that's what
Yeah.
the fees go into, and that's what it's to be used for, is peer review. The 53G, the difference is that the 53G puts the burden on paying on the applicant.
Mhm.
So the applicant we would procure it, but the money would be taken and put into an escrow account that bears interest. Any money that's not used is returned back to the applicant with interest at the end of the project.
I guess where my
So-
mind is going, since they paid substantial fees for the project, that we apply, whatever the cost is of doing a peer review, we apply the fees already paid to that cost and then use 53G to pay for whatever is, exceeds that
Remainder.
number. So that way, our fee account just keeps accumulating money. We're not really using it for anything because of the limits on it. That said, I don't want to tap
You
into
only
it.
have about, if $10,000 in
Yeah.
that account, there's not a ton of money in there.
Right.
No, but the peer review for this should be
Should be-
well under that.
Yeah.
Right, but if the peer review is 5,000, I mean, I can go back and I can tell you what the cost was for Parsons. It was at least a couple $1,000s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what was the total fee that you paid the city? It was
$1,787.50.
Yeah.
That was the
Right.
second one though, right?
No,
No,
that's
that's
the two combined.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
So if it's,
What
for
was
peer
it? Can you
review.
repeat?
So the first one was $737.50, and then our portion of the fee for the two buildings was $1,050. So $1,787.50 was the city's portion of the filing fee
Yeah.
for this notice of intent.
So that
And
way.
then another $300 for the stormwater permit, but I don't know what the deal with the stormwater fees is.
Stormwater fee is only $300 for the permit.
right.
But it goes
That
into
was
general
paid.
fund, right?
That goes into the general.
Yeah.
fund.
Right,
General
that's
fund.
what I
Has
mean.
to go into a separate.
So that gets excluded.
So if the cost of peer review is like 5,000 or something, then we pay the first 1,700.
Just understand that you're making it very complex, the paperwork.
Yeah.
Because, which is fine.
Yeah.
But, so we're gonna have to have two scopes of work, one that addresses the NOI, one that addresses the stormwater. Each of those have to have separate pricing because I need to be able to figure out what can get paid out of what. And
Would it be
then,
easier if it all
Well, the
came out of
stormwater is
50?
also part of the notice of intent. The stormwater that we're asking to have reviewed was filed under the Wetlands Protection Act,
Right.
not
Yeah.
the stormwater
that's fine,
ordinance.
okay.
Yeah.
But
You
two pots of money.
just separated those pots of money in the conversation.
Yes.
So you said that those $300 that goes into the
Oh,
general
yeah,
fund.
That's
That's
just
what I'm-
clarifying
I'm-
that that's off the board
Yeah.
for this.
Okay.
I'm forgetting the stormwater fee, but
That's not theirs.
but by doing that, we would reduce the additional cost to the applicant of doing the peer review.
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah.
By the amount of their filing.
17,
Yes,
right.
exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did I get this right?
I don't know. I'm not sure anybody did.
I mean, I wanna run it by the
Including me.
treasurer too. I mean, I
Okay.
don't wanna
Yeah.
be the one that says
So,
it's.
so our preference would be to use
I got it.
the
I
filing
understand.
fee
I
to
got it.
offset
Yep, I got it.
as much as the
Yeah,
filing fee
get
will
through,
cover.
the applicant through it. 53G escrow or something like that.
Thank you.
That's appreciated, some towns
Right.
wouldn't do that. Tell you that right now.
Right.
Because of the paperwork. You can understand it's gonna take me 2 hours of staff time to do the paperwork. It's fine, though, I'll do it.
I mean, that's what it's there for, and we.
No, I understand.
I know,
I
I'm
understand.
explaining to Mr. Boyle, and we're very limited by state law on what we can use those fees for. We can't
Oh.
use them for just anything.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would have a
Conservation.
recording
agent.
clerk and a conservation agent, and, you
Oh, you
know,
can't use them for that stuff?
no,
Well, that's the way it is.
We can use it for peer review.
yes,
Right.
which we would like to do. So,
Okay.
so with all of that said, would anyone care to make a motion that we continue this hearing to our March 14th, 2016 meeting at 6 p.m., which is our next regularly scheduled meeting?
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
No.
We can't
Revise.
revise?
Continue.
Continue.
Continue, that's what I'm looking for. Then we continue to the March
Somebody get that man a
14th
Snickers.
meeting.
Sorry,
Second?
what's the date?
Second.
March
14th.
14th.
Okay.
What
All
am-
those in favor?
Wait, what am I?
Me.
Okay.
Aye.
So, okay, so let's see what we have in place by
Okay.
March 14th,
Right,
and we'll see, communicate as to whether or not it requires
correct.
anyone to be here at that time
Right.
How fast can you get me a scope of work?
tomorrow.
Fast. Yes, tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Yep,
And
thank you.
thank you for the color-coded plan, that was
Yep.
very
Yeah.
helpful.
I was having a hard time, looking at the black and white plans, which side of the wetlands are on.
Yeah, right now it is very,
But I know
Backwards.
They're all the
I'm not
wetland
the only
symbols.
one sometimes.
so.
I know, they do.
Okay,
That's why you color. Color-coded. Thank you.
yep.
Thank you for being here, David.
Yep, thank you, yep.
All right.
You want, are you gonna do Williston? You got my email?
Oh, yes, did.
Want me to
Thank
take
you,
that?
folks. Because of the last meeting being delayed or canceled due to weather, we have an order of conditions now to sign for the Williston project. This was approved at our last meeting that we held. So we just need to sign, copy, and you'll take the original for
I'll take the
Williston?
original, yes.
Okay.
To get it
And
recorded.
can you make a note of that in our meeting minutes? That Mark Reed is taking the original on Williston's behalf, and we'll have it recorded at the Registry of Deeds, and we'll submit proof of recording
Yes.
by PDF.
Yes.
That's all I need.
Hold on.
You got it. What?
Conditions.
Okay.
What's he gonna tell? What is he?
I need to record it at the Registry
Yep.
of Deeds and provide the booking page.
Booking page.
Book and
Book.
page.
Book and page.
page to you guys.
Page.
Or booking page.
Booking.
Okay, be right back.
Right, to you guys. Yeah.
Look how far you've come so far.
I learned which things need to be capitalized. Bordering vegetated
No, you
wetlands.
didn't.
I've learned. I haven't done it.
You
But
didn't
guess
capitalize
what?
Mark's name right there.
Look at all the details I did. Put
Better
in.
stop
I've tried
complaining, or we're gonna have to.
Better stop complaining. You'll be doing
I know,
that.
right?
I was gonna say, Dan, keep it up and you'll be the one doing that. Totally.
Yep.
Registry. Deeds.
Jessica, can you provide technical assistance?
Uh-oh.
Do you have any
Thank
others?
you.
Oh, so where do I stick this? Under extras?
No,
or?
keep it under there. Oh, no.
I feel like it
No, I
needs
think
to
it's
be
an agenda item.
Aye.
We're just moving ahead, I think.
Brilliant.
Tons. We have very detailed minutes in general.
I can help with that. Should I put in that the commission signed the order of conditions, or can we just say that Marquita's taking it?
I don't know. I don't even really think any of it has to be in the minutes.
She said specifically,
Okay.
put that in.
No, I don't think you have to say what we signed.
Just get a letter.
If you did, you'd have to
No,
put in
you're
how
right.
quick and sloppy Jay's signature was, as usual.
Thank you.
Send it over.
Thank you. All right.
Another week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, have a great night.
Over here.
No, there were
night.
two sets. Thanks for
Two sets,
good
yeah.
night.
That's it.
Oh, here it is. That's what I was looking for. I did steal it.
Do you have them all rubber banded together?
No, just one set. Okay.
Oh, and a stormwater management. I'm glad you took notes, Melissa.
I can't not take notes. Okay. So, no request for certificates of compliance, no emergency certifications regarding enforcement orders for Bernard Gall, 37 South Street.
Someone from Mr. Gall's office got back to me and said he was out of town until the beginning of March, and he would get back to me when he gets back.
Okay.
Until early March, not early March.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we have plenty of lunch. The right place.
Okay.
Bernard Gall, off Groveland Street. Mr. Gall's culvert flow improvements are in violation of the exemption for the forest cutting.
Forest cutting.
Or so the way the exemption reads is up to 5,000 board feet, whatever that means, per parcel for non-commercial use only, meaning you cannot sell a stick of firewood. And during any 12-month period without an approved forest cutting plan. Only when the ground is sufficiently frozen, dry, or otherwise stable to support equipment used. You cannot do any of this work within 25 feet of the bank, unless you're for access purposes. You cannot place slash branches limbs resulting from cutting and removal operations within 25 feet of bank. There is no filling, excavation, or other change to the existing topography or hydrology of a resource area, and that's the
problem.
violation.
Yeah.
That an excavator was used to basically dig big holes on either side of the culvert to improve flow. So, we did our initial site visit with Mr. Gall on December 31st. Colleen Kouzis has drafted, I don't have it with me, she drafted an enforcement letter. So do we want to pursue finalizing that for our next meeting?
Okay.
Because by our next meeting, he will
Should
be
be back,
back. He's not even around. So,
It's taking forever.
well, if we had an agent, it might not take so long.
Yeah.
But we don't. So, this is the best we can do right now. So, I will review the draft and finalize it for our March 14th, 2016 meeting.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. There's no statute of limitations on
So
wetlands
A
violations.
violation's a violation until it's rectified.
You, in your initial words, you said the culvert flow improvements are in violation of.
The agricultural exemption for non-commercial, I can't even talk anymore.
Or
Not, let me find it, sorry.
no worries.
Non-commercial cutting of trees within resource areas and buffer zone.
Resource areas. Buffer zone.
Are we focused on that exemption because it's the one he claimed?
Yeah,
Okay.
he has no forest cutting plan.
Yep.
There's no exemption for maintaining existing access. For digging in he could replace the culvert, he can't dig out the stream.
Yep.
No one can.
Yep.
Under this provision. So this provision is 310.
Yes.
Space capital C, capital M, capital R. Space 10.04. Agriculture. Make sure I'm in the right. And then B, in parentheses, lowercase b. And then 15,
When do I close the parentheses?
after the B.
Got it. 15. Period.
Okay.
Do I need to put that whole 310 CMR 10 in something? Okay. Comma 310 something? Okay. Do I need to capitalize agricultural exemption for non-commercial cutting of trees in resource areas and buffer
You
zones?
can put a capital A on the agriculture, but the rest of it doesn't require.
You're doing great, Ashley.
You are.
Moving right along.
Okay, moving right along. Compliance updates. Active projects. Would you be so kind?
I'm sorry.
One.
Our notes from last time include commission will seek DEP comment on the enforcement order to be referenced.
I will
as-
do that.
You will do that.
Yeah. So on in the mail basket on top, there's a site plan from East Street. Can you look for the filing, so we can just make sure that
I'm looking in this box for it.
there's a wire basket?
Yeah.
Yep, it should be right on top. Yep. Does this have an address? Jess, what's the address?
There's East Street.
Yeah, 246. So
Oh,
can you
that's
look
the
for
house
the
basket.
file?
246.
246, 248.
Yeah. There was an RD. Do you need
Oh,
keys?
it's not unlocked. I only have to do one.
Unless it's in this folder.
So is this Mount Thomas Estates?
No,
No.
this is the Habitat for Humanity
This is
project
completely
on East
separate.
Street.
This was an RDA. The compliance updates are typically only pertain to orders of conditions.
She jumped a little bit. It's okay.
I did. I'm sorry.
And it's not anywhere else on here.
No. Because it came in. Whatever.
So
This is just checking.
Okay.
So what they submitted was an as-built plan. So I asked her for a copy for the commission's file since they filed an RDA. So it's just sort of closing the loop on that file. But it's
Which
not. The Habitat for Humanity project on East Street. So they had an RDA, so it's not on the list because it wasn't an NOI.
Because it's just an RDA.
Right,
With
but,
the determination.
but, you know, they were supplying as-built plans to other departments, so I asked.
You asked her to
Sure.
That one for us. Thank you.
How long ago was that RDA? Was it like
A million years. Revised March 3rd, 2013. I have no idea.
It's a different scale. Oh, wait.
Here's
East Street.
They did go to the ZBA, I feel like at least once for some design modifications, so.
Wow. I'll say so. So, in the parking.
I guess I'm wondering if we could measure off a
Do you need a scale?
sideline. So this is a 20 scale, and this is a 10 inch. So,
Do you want me to get my scale?
I guess I want your eyes too, because I'm trying to compare apples to apples here. I guess I could measure it off this property line.
But in the
But
same
they're-
direction, so that would help. So.
Yeah, I
So
do.
you're just slightly different.
Well, yeah.
There we go.
So they may have changed, the driveway definitely has had some modifications because it's got that going on instead of this thing.
So
And these pathways don't really.
that's fine. So the reason they got a negative determination was because the building was outside the buffer, or as I recall, the discussion was that the building would be outside the buffer zone, the driveway would be outside the buffer zone, there would be some yard, yeah, edge of landscape area, this is the limit of work. So,
Well, I can certainly go get my scale,
Yeah.
but it's 27.6.
but we don't have, the part of the problem is this property line isn't on this plan. Unless it's this.
That might
be
Or
that.
is it this?
Might be
Probably,
Okay.
it may be that.
Because these
Well,
are the
let's look
same
at the,
angle.
let's look at the, so this is 49, this is saying 51 feet.
68.
60,
Okay.
So yeah, I'd say that this, the way that they did the Habitat project is that instead of building a duplex, they did 0 lot line, so the property line goes straight through the building. So it's a little bit different.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They do what now?
They don't, Habitat models don't necessarily work well under a condo form, especially when there's just 2 property owners. So to make that paperwork and maintenance easier, they gave them each their own lot, but built it as a duplex with a 0 lot line, so the property goes right down the middle.
And that's okay.
Well, they went through the zoning board of appeals, and you can ask for, the permitting process they went through, they asked for zoning waivers.
Yep.
So that was one of the zoning waivers.
So I guess I just want to make,
You just want to make sure it's outside the buffer. is
yeah,
what you
that,
need to
that
do.
what we agreed to is what was built. Otherwise, we're just going to have to be more stringent the next time.
I think it'd be easier if I just go get my scale.
Okay. Yeah.
Where's the buffer line?
It's not on here.
Okay. Is it on here?
Yeah.
The 100-foot
This one right here?
Yeah.
Oh, so this could, shed.
Or are they using this little line as the buffer line? Almost has the
Which
same
line?
Yeah, I think it's a tree
curve, but
line.
then it doesn't quite work.
Okay,
So can I measure up to the point where the buffer crosses the property line? That's a 20 scale.
We're looking at about 71 feet.
Okay. So now this is 10 scale.
71.
Okay, and then can you measure? So it follows it.
From here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Boy, can't do this after the meeting? Let's see, about 25-ish feet. And then we're going about 25-ish, because it's on an angle, so we're at an angle. Yep.
So
Maybe it's
then-
this tree line.
That's what I thought, but then it changed down here, wasn't it?
Well, they cut into it.
Okay, now
So
what?
then measure from there to there. I want to get the work limit too.
This one.
20.
Track of which is which. 170 feet. Ish.
So.
I might be able to make it 170, I can do 120.
Got it. So they're fine.
Okay.
I would say they're fine, because that's the work, where the work limit line was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say that's pretty consistent
Mm-hmm.
with,
Mm-hmm.
that was my main concern. Does anyone else want to check anything?
No.
No?
Do we need to take notes about this?
That goes with that.
You want to go that
And
way?
it's got the date on it, so it's all set. Thank you all for indulging that curiosity.
Do I need to write something down?
Yeah. Yeah.
Other business?
Other business,
General business?
general. Habitat for Humanity, 246 and 248 East Street.
Let's do that.
248.
6 and 248.
246 and 242.
Uh-oh, I need a Snickers. East Street. As built map plans.
Consistent with plan approved as part of 2013 RDA.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Mount Tom Estates has asked us for a site meeting with to go over stormwater. They're trying to, my understanding is that they're trying to get things as set as they can get them with the developer who took on the completion of the project. So I figure I'll go ahead and schedule that, and whoever can be there can be there.
Okay.
Okay.
Did they request a site visit?
Site meeting.
Site meeting or just a meeting?
Meeting somewhere to review the stormwater requirements with their. They have copies of the files, right? I believe the board.
They've got copies of everything they've asked for.
Okay.
Stormwater requirement.
They've gone through the commission's files several times. So they've made
Understandable.
photocopies.
It's a quagmire.
Yeah, they made copies of different maps and plans. I don't know if they have everything, but they've got a bunch of stuff.
Okay. Any updates on Hall Street?
Nope. It's
Pleasant Street Mills?
it's looking kind of messy now. Actually, I should have mentioned that to Mark, just because of the thaw and
Okay.
muddy, and but it's not. It looks like the catch basin silt sacks are in, and there's just a little bit of tracking on the road.
Okay. Is everything on hold for the winter? Winter?
They've been doing some work when they can. They've been putting fencing on top of the wall. They were doing some grading. So when they can work, they are working.
Okay.
Not a ton of people out there. There's just a couple guys, but
15 Cottage Street? Nothing.
happening.
Nothing on the Oxbow. Nothing on fishing and boating access. Nothing on Lathrop. Mutterfield is on hold for the winter.
Right.
We issued the Williston Northampton School cross-country running trail improvements order of conditions. So that's valid through 2019 at the present. Okay.
Valid through
2/22/2019.
Oh, okay.
3 years from date of issuance, which is tonight. Okay. Park Hill Trails Plan Community Workshop, February 4th, recap and discussion. I was there, Jess was there.
You didn't want me there. I was sick.
Oh,
so
I was coughing the whole time. I'm actually doing quite well right now.
Dan was there.
I was there. Jessica was there.
Oh, that's right, you were there for the beginning.
Yeah.
It was actually, I thought it was a good turnout.
Mhm.
Split off into work groups and
Okay.
kind of collective brainstorming of key features, drawbacks, shortcomings, people want to see it going, what improvements people may want to make. And so the two Conway school students collected all the ideas and are going to be compiling them. And there's another session sometime in March.
I'm looking it up. I want to say it's March 3rd, but it could be the 4th. No, it's March 3rd. It's a Thursday. So that's the follow-up meeting, and I'm actually going on Friday to their presentation at Conway.
Cool.
Are people invited to the March 4th, 3rd meeting?
Oh yeah, it's
Oh, yeah.
a big public.
thing.
So it'll be,
It's them basically coming back and presenting a bunch of different design alternatives based on the information that they've been collecting.
Do you know what time it is?
6 o'clock, I think.
Will you email it to us again?
it'll be on the Facebook page.
Yeah, it's 6 o'clock.
The East Hampton Planning Department.
And that's the 3rd?
Dude, I'm going home and write it
Shit.
down.
That's March 3rd.
March 3rd,
Yes.
yes, March 3rd. It's becoming a very complicated project.
Oh.
More complicated than, I didn't really have a good sense of the Echodale ownership.
It's complicated.
And I do now, but it took me a long time to figure it out. They own, the property owners own the land. We co-own the APR, but we also own the trails easement. So we don't have as much
Leeway.
rights to the land, I guess, as I had been
Echodale
Okay.
East.
Echodale East, as I had been going into it with. Echodale West
is clear.
we own. But the east portion, I thought we had more rights to that property than I'm finding out. So I feel a little bit bad about that, not fully understanding that, but.
So one of the
Learn.
things is people were talking about the town farm APR land and possibly somehow incorporating that, and I wondered what restrictions, if any, there were associated with the APR that
Well,
might
that's what
limit.
complicates it as well, is they've been spending a lot of time researching what you basically can and cannot do
Right.
on APR land, and I did have an interesting discussion with one of the property owners up there after the meeting, saying that, you know, that the Department of Agricultural Resources is very strict about what they do allow in terms of types of activities, and that they've been having an ongoing dialogue with the state because they want to do things that market their property, but the state thinks it goes above and beyond what is allowed under the APR. So I think what's gonna come out of this is, will be very informative in terms of legally, you know, it's great to have a vision for this area, but how do you work within all of those different state regulations in terms of how to make this happen? So it's good to have somebody pull it together and do the research, but it's, I think it's way more complicated of a project than the students probably initially thought going in. You know, in terms of just the legal rights and how that all sort of works together, so.
What does the trail easement mean for all of it?
So there's an easement that gives the city a right to put a trail.
10 feet wide or something?
It's
I think?
20 foot wide, but the way that the plan was filed shows that the trail just on the perimeter of the property, which doesn't necessarily make the most sense. And the language is not flexible enough, like other trail easements that I've looked at, that allows that trail to be defined later on when the process. So there was a plan that was filed with this perimeter trail.
And we're
That
sort of
doesn't make a
bound to
lot of
that?
Yeah.
I don't know, and I guess that's the question is, you know, are we bound to it, or, you know, is there some, because it would be, I don't want to disturb their farming operations either, so I think there needs to be sort of a back and forth dialogue with the property owners. Unfortunately, they have not been very responsive. So,
I mean, in terms of, you know, their farming operations, it would make sense to want to keep the trail to the fringes.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think I got on the commission right after the city procured.
It was after I got on the commission too. Or no, it was before I got on the commission.
Yeah.
That it was all done.
But so I think that APR stuff was still in process or something more in my first
well,
year
it was,
or two.
well, TPL,
Yeah.
Trust for Public Land, came in and they basically acquired it, and then there was a whole big fundraising effort, and then
Yeah.
TPL then sold the land to the current owners, but the APR is owned by the city, co-owned by the city and the state.
Okay.
So we have some ownership up there, but it's you know, it's complicated.
Yeah.
It's not
APR
But-
is meant to be very restrictive.
right
Is my
because you're
understanding.
protecting the prime soils, and if you do anything to that would be detrimental
Alter.
to altering the prime agricultural soils, then there's a problem. So you know, in terms of taking all that information from that meeting and saying, here's some really great resources on this property, there's some really interesting natural features, it would be great to be able to have people access them. Where that fits in with all of the complicated
Right.
legalese is, it's gonna be interesting to see what they come up with based on sort of those legal hangups, I guess, if that makes sense. So, anyway,
I
it'll
mean,
be interesting.
I guess my impression coming out of all that process was that the trail easement being around the property boundary was pretty well set in stone, and that was the intent, to kind of make it restrictive in some ways so that the rest of the property, would be open to,
Mhm.
Used by the owner for agricultural reasons. So
There's a lot of existing trails that don't go near any agricultural areas, so there's all these trails that people have built, little bridges and all kinds of things in there.
Mhm. On the Ecadale East parcel.
Yeah, I mean, it
Okay,
seems that
yeah.
people are already accessing that property, their neighbors seem to be accessing that property and utilizing it.
Yeah.
And there's a trail network that has
Correct, right.
been built over time, whether you can go back to Native American Indians starting some of these footpaths. I mean, that was part of the dialogue, is that these are really old trails.
Mhm.
So, anyway, so it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. I think it'll be.
One thing that came up, Ben Lesko, I was in touch with Ben Lesko, and he felt like there wasn't any talk of the orchard. So I guess one question is just is that going to be part of the plan at all, or is that going to be a separate project?
They were going to look at it as much as they possibly could without really, they couldn't, there's a limited scope of work that they have the amount of time to work on. And so it was kind of like a secondary part of it, saying, yeah, if we know that we want trails on that segment, they'll do some assessment and some analysis. But I don't know where they're headed with that, but it's on their radar screen. But their focus really is trying to work out the complicated network system.
And they wouldn't be focused on like how the city would use the orchard anyway, right?
That's not part of this project. It's sort of a footnote to the project, and they're aware of it, but it's not the focus of the project. That would be a whole other thing, I think.
Like most things, it's proving to be a bigger undertaking than it seems like it should.
Yeah, the orchard is always where the discussions start, and then they never
Stop.
actually go there.
After they
It's
finish
hard
their
to-
part of the
very
project,
hard.
can we revisit the orchard again? I mean, obviously, like.
Yeah. Yeah.
How's that delineation coming along?
Where's Colleen? She's
Well, I
out
think
there flagging
it's
by
the
moonlight.
And they were gonna do some assessment themselves, so
Yeah.
there's no point
Yeah.
in duplicating efforts.
If they want to continue the line, that would be.
I mean, if they wanna, I think we should wait to see what they come up with, and then we'll pick it up from there.
Yeah.
So, okay. Do we have any fiscal year 2017 budget discussion?
I submitted
There we go.
something, and I'll be talking to the
It was
mayor tomorrow. about
Level
it.
funded, right?
Pretty much, I mean, I
Pretty other
basically
than-
put in what we sort of talked about, education, I put some funds in there.
Okay.
I got an updated number from the MACC in terms of dues for 2017, or for 2017, fiscal year 17. So, yeah, I made some very minor increases, so we'll see what happens.
The MACC conference, if anyone wants to go on their own dime, is Saturday, March 5th. So the Saturday after the Trails meeting, Holy Cross, Worcester.
I'll be skiing.
Well, if there's any snow.
Yeah, my one ski day of the year. There may not be any snow.
Okay, so Colleen's not here, so we don't have a draft wetlands protection ordinance discussion. Meeting minutes approval. January
There's
11th.
some little highlighted things, so I assume you had questions on a few.
Okay, so what are these, and we can address them, and then we can.
That. So, looks like a.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, we were supposed to, you actually did that one. The wetland resource area boundaries at this location, the Lively property, were approved by the commission through separate application filed by Wilson on. And I actually tried to look back, but the minutes that I had still in my email were not
Right, okay.
the right ones. And I couldn't get that one to unhighlight.
It could make it go away.
How do you unhighlight? That's the question.
You have to,
That's it?
You have to highlight the one before it sometimes.
I did. I unhighlighted like the whole page.
So it's probably
Did you try the format painter?
It's probably on that document that I made
Put that
of when
on.
things were filed.
Yeah, I don't have that right now.
Oh, it's on
Oh,
the computer though.
Okay.
No, I mean in the.
No, I'm going to what?
Oh, you're doing something else.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
It's a sheet. It was shared with you.
was it shared with me?
Oops, sorry.
So we're using the shared document.
So these are in,
Oh yeah, that's right. You did do that.
We gotta use it for something.
Yes. Well, we did a lot of stuff.
There was a lot in 2014, but not so much in 2015. Where is it? There it is.
So it was
was that?
presented.
Oh, yeah, the end.
So
Yeah.
it was submitted to the commission on November 9th, 2015.
So it was submitted to the commission? Is that the day that we care about, or the day that it was approved?
What
It says filed is what you wrote,
Filed.
so,
November 9th, 2015.
great.
Okay,
Okay,
next.
that was it.
Oh,
It
okay.
is one, yeah.
So, is there a motion to approve the January 11th, 2016 meeting minutes?
I move
As
to
amended.
approve the January
11th.
2016 minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
In favor?
As
As
amended.
amended.
I ate the motion.
So approved. Okay. All right, how about the January 25th, 2016 meeting minutes?
Move to approve.
No.
Sorry.
Open your eyes.
What?
Redox.
No, I don't want to. You can't make me. Okay, a motion was made to issue an ordinance with standard terms and conditions and other including addition to the confirmed depth, the seasonal high water table, and soil doxymorphic features. I spelled it. REDOXIMORPHIC.
Of course.
Redoxymorphic.
Features. Great. Redoxymorphic.
Should have known that.
I know.
So disestablishment technique.
Not capitalized.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from January 25th as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Thank you.
All right, good people. Anything else? What else?
Correspondence.
There's a forest cutting plan that DCR is now providing in PDF formats for Donald and Paula Sykowski for land off Pomeroy Street. 10.6 acres, proposed start date ASAP. So, okay.
Off Pomeroy Street. The name was Sykowski, but.
Sykowski, CYKOWSKI. Tax, it's assessor's map 182, lot 40.
182 what for you?
Lot, parcel, lot. Okay, so if anyone wants to look at that, you're welcome to. What is this? ZBA decision? Variance decision about?
You just need, nothing, it's not relevant.
It's just our copy?
At this point, yes.
Special permit decision about something,
CBA.
yeah, but where?
I don't know, I
You
can't.
can't see from
From
here?
here.
No, come on.
Right.
Well, it's not 62 Briggs Street. Anyone wants to see any of this, they're welcome to. Land Conservation Conference. And what is this? 412 Main Street? Where is 412 Main Street? Aside from, further down from Joe.
Argotech, is that the planning board? Argotech, on the way
Yankee
to,
Hill Machine.
on the way to Big Y, the former Argotech
Oh,
building.
oh, oh.
That's vacant.
Yeah.
It has wetlands in the way back.
Yes.
In the way back.
In the way back.
It's like it's a minivan.
I love it.
So you should probably just take a look at it.
Mhm.
It's currently under the planning board review. They will be taking it up again on March 15th.
I always want to call it agro. Because I do. I'd be wrong.
Do I need to make them for what?
Oh,
Whatever it is you're
yes.
talking
Here. Cheat sheet.
They're not creating any additional disturbance than what's already there.
What are they proposing?
They're just, it's a change of use. They're not
Oh.
changing the building. The building's already there, the parking lot's already there, the storm
Are they
system
doing
is already there.
stormwater work?
They have an existing stormwater plan on site already.
But are they making any repairs or improvements there too?
They're reviewing it right now.
Okay.
One of the recommendations that came from this engineering peer review was that cleaning out the catch basins. There's interior drainage that they're gonna be cementing off so that it doesn't flow outside at all.
Great.
So,
Okay, so,
I think it's fine, but, you know.
well, they have, this is great because they have a site plan that shows wetlands and buffer zone. So as long as they're, basically, as long as they're working within the existing
They're not doing any additional
paved
work.
footprint,
Right.
They're not doing
you know,
anything else.
but if they
They
improve the
expand.
discharge points or do any work outside the existing paved footprint, then they'd be, like, there's the potential that they'd have to file with the commission.
Why don't you write that down so that I can send that along? They're keenly aware of it.
The fact that they have it shown on a site plan is.
Right. Do you want?
about. No, changed my mind. I got that.
Does it need to get filed or just for
I don't know.
information?
I think that's for our information.
Here's 62 Briggs.
I think we can do something if we have concerns or something, but we probably can send something now.
The sidewalk. The street where people park on both sides. There is no signage. It's a BTQ.
Big top quilts.
Oh, they are. Susan and Joe's house. Maggie and I's garage. Amy and Dave's garage.
I approve.
Are you making up words to go with like initials or?
No, it's a great
actually
idea.
saying
No,
that?
it's
in there.
They've just named their neighbors by.
Oh. Not very helpful.
Thank you, Fred. That's great. Thanks. Appreciate it. Yep.
Is that clear? Good. Okay. Is there any other?
Do I need to record this in a minute?
Nope.
Should be reported to posterity.
Any other question, comments, concerns, discussion for our March 14th, 2016 meeting? All right, motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.